Mike Gill, State of Corruption. Many of you just saw that video. We've got a case number for the first time, right? From the Department of the Treasury, the special agent in charge, Susan Motes. What you've got to ask yourself is, out of all these years asking the Treasury, the IRS, TITCA, the FBI, the common thread among all of them is, please give me a case number. You've seen videos. You've seen me asking for those case numbers. You see me at the doors. You see me send mailings and evidence. Case number, please. The reason why they never gave us a case number was they always knew my evidence was complete and absolute and would prove corruption. And what happened was none of them could be caught holding that hot potato, because in the remote possibility something went sideways, no one wanted to be holding that hot potato. So the question you've got to ask yourself is this: why did we get a case number? Now I know. I know because I'm moving these pieces on the board. Understand this. Lawyers have a saying. You ready? Leverage, leverage, leverage. That's what they understand. That's how they move. It's also part of their extortion. They leverage you and extort you the same way. Now I'm going to tell you how we leverage them. But you first have to understand who they are. We are at a critical time. And I need your help. I need you to be my witnesses. With the evidence that I'm going to show you and the moves that I'm making, they only work if you follow, if you share, if you recruit. We have one advantage, and only one advantage in a war. And that advantage is numbers, which is why they work so hard to divide us. That's the purpose of the media, separating us, religion, politics, race. It's all a mechanized form of an attack, okay? So let me have you understand this. Good people have a hard time to understand and see this kind of corruption, which is really an evil that you can't understand. I couldn't understand it. But if you're going to fight a war, you better know your enemy. Because these chess pieces I'm moving, and I'm telling you I'm moving these chess pieces, and I'll explain. I'm going to explain to you that we're winning this game finally. Maybe for the first time. With a real chance of victory. But you've got to help. Now think about this. Now this evil sees you quite well. So you're already at a disadvantage. They see your kindness as weakness, as gullibility, where you cannot understand how they can destroy families in family courts. They can protect drug cartels that are killing your children and their futures. Insurers that are cheating you every day. Why do you think costs are so high? Pharmaceutical companies get away with selling you prescriptions knowing you're going to be addicted. Have you asked yourself how that is all possible? You don't believe that doctor, that lawyer, that judge, that politician would do such a thing? Well, then you've already lost. So here's what I've done. I have taken what I have thought to be the most egregious, the most evil, and I have said, what would the most evil and greediest individuals do? And then you find them. And then you see them. And then they have a disadvantage. Their disadvantage is their overconfidence. And they're thinking that they're smarter than you. But they've manipulated you with fear. Well, you'd find that they're not. Which is why suddenly we are ahead. Okay? Let's take this a piece at a time. I have finally got a phone call from the taxpayer advocate in Boston. Now, do you know how we had a case number for the first time? I have never had a phone call from any of these taxpayer advocates. But I did build a case. You see, they've just figured out that they're in a game of chess. Treasury did. They know I've given this evidence to the AG, Durham, senators. They're afraid it's going to blow up. So they didn't give us anything like a case number. We took it. We took it because they are in a position of incrimination. We did that. We moved them into position. Now, we also prompt that phone call. The gentleman's name is Bob Allen. Now, what he said was, he goes, "You've called me 3 times or sent 3 faxes." No, we didn't, Bob. We've sent you hundreds. And the good news is, we've documented every email, every fax, every call, every mailing. And you know we have. But suddenly you called us now? Because we do have a case number. This is an investigation. And you're holding the hot potato. Isn't that so, Bob? And you directed us to the Portsmouth office. Listen, in a million years, the last place I would look for help is the same Portsmouth, New Hampshire office that Shaheen controls and owns. The same office as Tim Powell offered me the $50 million and wanted their releases. Do you think you go to the perpetrator for help? Which is part of the problem in these solutions. It's because nobody else wanted to touch it. But the Boston office isn't alone. You see this? These are copies of transmissions to Nina Olson in Washington. All of these, all receipts that you received this evidence through faxes and emails. You have never called back once. In fact, you'll see a small cut from a video that I spoke to your office. Yes, hi. Is Nina Olson there? How about Karen Tober? Okay, well, I can give you a message then. Okay, this is a very important message. My name is Mike Gill, and I own GILL. And I own run an organization called State of Corruption. And I've been being leveraged by the IRS for a number of years. But more importantly, I have the Tim Campus of the Kitka division. And I have an audio tape of Mr. Campus, and who Mr. Campus is the Deputy Inspector General of Investigations with Kitka. I have him on a audio saying that he has a mole in my company. And he's talking to a gentleman named Tom Morley, who was the ticker agent I was working with for about 5 years. So what it turned out to be is they were covering up the corruption the whole time, and it was an act of God. He didn't hang up the phone. Then they called Tim Campus, and they talked and laughed about it, of having a mole. Remember, Tim Campus is the Deputy Inspector General of Investigations of Kitka. Tom Morley turned around and had his cousin, Curtis Morley, an accountant, intercept my mail from the IRS for about 4 years. Now the IRS is, excuse me, it's 603-819. Now this recording is over the internet. If you go to stateofcorruption.org, about 4 million people have heard this recording. So there's no question. I've been to the IRS in Washington. They know the whole situation. and they're part of a settlement offer that I've refused for $50 million. That's also in writing and also on the internet. And about 5 million people have seen that. What are they to do? I want this investigated. I want relief from this. This is a criminal action from TITCA. Now, I've sent packages to the president. I've sent package to Mr. Gowdy, Mr. Sessions. So this is going to get out, but I expect the IRS to handle this also internally. Stateofcorruption.org. They get to hear their guy saying they have a mole, laughing about it and how corrupt it is. Now, and the person that orchestrated that is Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire. There's no doubt, under recording, their words. Oh, okay, and your name?
I'm Brenda Jones.
Brenda Jones. Okay, thank you, Brenda. Bye. One of your direct agents, Brenda Jones, no one's calling us, but we called them. Explained it. You can hear the video, which is also evidence. And all these things are going to be an exhibit that goes to TITCA, that goes to that very special agent in charge, Miss Meeks. You see? We have generated the evidence that's conclusive. You stonewalled the Taxpayer Advocate Department through Washington, Boston, across this country. You covered up. This proves it. But when you're doing your investigation, Miss Meeks, you're going to find the tapes of your own departments. Your head of investigation, Tim Campus. You're going to hear a phone call he was on with your agent, Tom Morley, who covered this up for many years. You're going to hear him say that they have a mole in my company.
Good times, Tim. This is going to be your case. I got to call him, Chris, and I'm going to tell him, like, we have a plant, we have an undercover here.
That mole was Brian Toomey. He was to contact with Bill Shaheen, as in Senator Jeanne Shaheen and Alex Walker. Right. You're going to see a taxpayer advocate letter from 2011, June. Just as I told all these people I wasn't going to take their offers, I wasn't going to take their settlements, I was going to put them in jail. The taxpayer advocate, Janet Rumsford, and I put that case number out there, 510-3911, with their apologies that there was an error in submitting my taxes. Sorry. That error was done by Walker and Schwartz and every accountant that you've seen on that list of releases, which is another exhibit of this evidence. 50 million releases, every accountant, every attorney, the IRS themselves, the DRA, Department of Revenue themselves, and the banking department. Now you see, we get them all. Now what you have to understand is, we moved them. They didn't call me because they wanted to. We forced them. Now, you know the next move? We give them the special agent in charge of the Treasury. We give them all this evidence. From the settlement, to the IRS mailings, to the transcripts of Brenda Jones, to the IRS proof that I was in your offices. You know why? I took pictures while I was in your office so there'd be no dispute. Everything I've done was moving pieces on a chessboard. You remember their favorite saying, leverage, leverage, leverage? Well, you get to eat it. We just beat you in your game. Now the Treasury Department's going to have to say, what are we going to do? We are proven to be corrupt from the top to the bottom. That this has been a giant cover-up using Shaheen. Remember, we're going to show you some of the articles. Shaheen did this exactly. And remember, if you get the head of this deep state, you get this head of this corrupt network that sells protection to all those criminal drug cartels, pharmaceuticals, insurers, big banks, family court. We open the door to everything, which is why this is such an important time and place. We may never get this opportunity again. You've got to share. You've got to help me. You've got to be the witnesses. You understand this is not a reality show. This is our future. This is war. President Trump. All of this is evidence that I've given you, Attorney General Barr, Durham, Department of Justice. Now, I showed you in our last video how we get the cartel, why Vice President Pence's plane turned around. Now I get you the IRS. Are they not leveraging you? Is this not the extortion arm of the FBI and the deep state? I have given you every single piece of means of attack that they've used against you. But they've used against the people of this country. We live under the tyranny of this extortion. How many people go to jail, have their income attached, houses taken from the IRS, and it proves that they're a criminal organization from top to bottom? Do you see the obscenity of that? Here's the opportunity, President Trump, to turn around and drain that swamp, keep your promise, and turn the direction of our country. I am telling you this, from doing this for more years than I even want to tell you. I tell people it's over 10, it's actually 14. But I don't want you to give up hope, because I haven't. You see a clip. I just saw this the other day. Zippia. It was rating businesses for employments. Did you know that we were one of the number one companies, mortgage companies in the United States to work for? In fact, it says in New Hampshire, we were number 12 as the best company out of 100 they posted. We had more women working for us than men. We had a 91 rating for income, 82 rating for diversity, 91 rating for employment advancements, and I'll post it. And listen, I put it all on the line, including my life. Because what did you think that I saw? These drug dealers weren't killing my children. This corruption offered me $50 million. Did you think they wanted to fight with me, really? But they knew the potential that I had. They knew the plan of organization that I had. That's why the platform is State of Corruption. I put my own money up. I've never asked anybody for a penny to build that. They in turn destroyed that company, sold it to a drug cartel, the properties, the buildings. That's your penalty for exposure. That's the lesson to people, to think that you stand up and try to save the sheep, we slaughter you with the sheep. Well, I couldn't live with myself to knowing that I didn't do something. That's who they are. That's what they're capable of. My motivation was a single motivation: to find justice, not for myself, but for everybody in the future of our children. We have an opportunity here and right now. I am telling you, they have learned from their mistakes. They will not give you another opportunity to make them vulnerable. Between President Trump getting elected, between them killing enough of you, and making corruption so obvious that it's hard to deny. Yet you won't find any politicians that mention corruption, because who do you think's paying their freight? Right. So please, now is our time. I've probed for those 14 years to find that weakness, to find the target. Why do you think I'm putting these videos back to back? Why do you think I'm showing you evidence, people, witnesses? Why do you think I'm moving into these leverage positions? And here's the good news. It's working. Case number, phone calls, evidence. You don't feel there's a change of tide out there? You don't feel that the wind of change is in the air? You don't feel that people for the first time in all these years believe there's such a thing as corruption? Well, they do. So our time is here and now. Or miss it forever. Mike Gill, State of Corruption.